Okay, so video for the new Moondrop wireless system. This is called the Alice. It's a TWS. It's a 10mm ULT super linear dynamic driver. It's essentially the same driver as in the Kato or the Kato, depending on how you pronounce it correctly or incorrectly. I don't know which one I'm doing. It's got that driver in it, and that is a good driver. I thought it had good resolution. I like the way that it performed. It's also got Bluetooth version 5.2. It's got, of course, Type-C, and it's got a battery life, depending on how you use it, between 8 to 40 hours. I'm going to do an unboxing right now very quickly, so I'm going to try to speed up some parts of it, like me saying basically nothing, which is half the stuff that I say. There's the box. Put it over there and maybe start fast forwarding it. Okay. And there goes your quality control card. And this is we've got the charging case, which is simple, light. It's got USB-C on the back, magnet type closing. Put that down for just a second. These are, I don't have a problem with the fit with these actually. These actually fit a little bit better than the Sonys for me. So I read some stuff online. Always beware of doing that. I'm not having a fit issue with these at all. This is in stock configuration, which means that their firmware updates are available, but I have not done it because I don't like the way that it adjusts the tuning. So I'm with whatever the original out of the box firmware is. That's what I'm going to give my listening impressions on. So that's the buds right there. Okay, we got a case. It's basically a magnet. The cover comes on or off. I guess the magnet is right there. And these can go. That's what I figured. So you can charge it while it's in its nice case. So I guess that makes sense. Put that over there. Okay. The Moondrop tips, I believe. And more Moondrop tips. And another. Oh, that's a legit postcard. Okay. And this is like a giant version of that. And this is a business card. Owner, man, I guess that's a ownership card. And this is how to use it. Okay, music. Let's talk about the frequency graph first. Go ahead and take a look to my left. I read online that it was supposed to be extremely shouty. I don't know if they adjusted that with the firmware before they released it, but this is not shouty at all, not to my ears. I'll talk about that when I do the review. It's got sub bass over mid bass. It's got a slightly tucked in mid bass actually, and that does come out in the listening. The mids are nice. The gain is good. The upper mids are nice, and the treble is as well. It's a well-tuned set that contains a good driver. It's one weak point for me in its stock configuration. Bass firmware without using noise canceling is probably going to be the mid bass. It surely is, and I've already taken my notes. So let's go ahead and talk about some music. Open this up, 3D albums, and here we go. Starting with deck mix, like 808 Roland type stuff, Pack Like Sardines, Tupac Violin, and Kill Jill. This has a dynamic driver. It's got the rumble and the droning that goes on with these tracks. It's not quite, it's slightly lacking, and it's interesting that because the Kato or the Kato was the same, it was tuned slightly different, but I thought that driver was technically quite good, but due to the tuning it wasn't really giving me the meat on the bone that I want. So this is doing well. There's not a notable problem here. It's probably not something, there are a lot of TWSs out there that have slight bumps, a little bit more bass that might be more appropriate for people that lean on trip hop, hip hop, or libraries that got a lot of prominent low frequency pinning down the track throughout. If you Massive Attack, stuff like that. This, I don't know, there might be other options out there, but it's fine. It sounds reasonably clean. When we get into the mid bass and we listen to stuff like Sultans of Swing, Black Sabbath, Sweet Leaf, Violent Femmes, Please Do Not Go, the audible tuck becomes apparent. It's got a light replay in the mid bass that shows up in a graph, and whenever that happens it also comes back in the replay. I'm actually going to skip all of that and go to, okay, I'll stay with this. I reviewed a set yesterday, or I posted it yesterday, the U-Man. And that's got a polite borderline. I wanted a little more kind of snappiness to the guitar, bass guitar pulls and releases. This is even more audibly subdued. It's not muted, but it sounds much more polite and something that is obviously maybe more vocal centric in its tuning ideal, and not really for people that like maybe a little bit more mid bass. They didn't advertise it as that, and it doesn't actually do that. So this doesn't shine here. And bass guitars in general sound okay, but not great. So definitely not the strong point for this. As we get into drums and we listen to Limelight or Moby Dick by Led Zeppelin, drum play sounds pretty good. It sounds a little bit light in the foot, kind of like the bass guitar, slightly more so than yesterday's set. The kick drum in Led Zeppelin's fourth album, when the levee breaks, John Bonham's authoritative, very much overproduced with echoes and all kinds of stuff, is definitely sounds like a kick drum, but that's it. It doesn't sound like the authoritative kick drum that it's supposed to be, that the peers who reviewed it at the time, back in the 70s, I believe, said it was. It was an iconic John Bonham moment. This is really, just sounds like a regular kick drum. So this is something that sounds like it's treating it like the Monarch and other sets that have just a little bit too, not enough mid bass for me personally. So this wouldn't do well on that. As we move into the vocals and we listen to stuff like Fleetwood Mac, Chris Cornell, Madonna, lots of stuff like that, it actually does really good. This is really, I guess, a vocal-centric set. The Wilson sisters did great on this. Female vocals sound good. Fleetwood Mac, two female singers sound good. I thought that all of the vocal listening sounded quite nice. I enjoyed it a lot. The bassist in The Chain was notably polite, more so than I'm used to, but the vocal replay was really good, and I think it's where this set really shines. I forgot to mention cymbal strikes and the drum part. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Usually if I forget something, it's because it didn't stand out as being super impressive or completely missing. So I think vocals are probably where this shines. When we get to Vivaldi and we listen to strings, we got the intense upper harmonics or treble region that could be maybe grating. It's not the case with this set. This has got very good tuning. It doesn't have overly boosted late treble. It doesn't sound like it to the ear. It doesn't show it on the graph. Listening to Vivaldi, also some Tchaikovsky. A waltz was fine with this, which is great because there's been so many sets that have come recently where they're really boosting the upper harmonics, and I can't get why. And it also fatigues me personally. This set doesn't do that. So to summarize, if you like an authoritative low end, there are so many options in the wireless TWS, double dynamic drivers with planars, all kinds of stuff out there. This might not be your set. If you're vocal centric with your listening, as a lot of Moondrop fans are, they're probably going right at you, and they know their audience and they're going at them with their tuning right here. There is an update that gives it even a little bit less bass and makes it more like a original Kato or a Kato. So this is recommended for people who are familiar with Moondrop tuning and like it and know what they want. I don't know about battery life. I'm not having an issue with that. I'm really just reviewing this on sound quality. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of reviews on it that will talk about the quality of the noise canceling, the actual battery life, etc. Its resolution is decent. I don't consider it to be on par with wired, but I haven't heard any wireless that make me feel that's a bias also because I'm old school. I like wired sets, but wireless has its place, obviously, in a world where things don't have 3.5 millimeter jacks. But I digress. Very well tuned set. Prices okay, I guess, a little bit pricey. There's some stuff out there that's around 160. The Huale, I believe it's called. It's really good. So there's a lot of competition out there. It's a good set. I've rambled. I'll let you guys go. Summarize. Sub bass sounds decent. It's not slamming, but it's there. The mid bass is a little bit light, and it's notable in certain instances when I'm listening to the bass guitar. I'm listening to the drums. Kick drum stands out in particular. We get into the mids, and we get into the upper mids, and we get into the treble. Regarding vocals, I think it's where it shines. It does very well. There's no problems there. In fact, it's quite good in that sense. And when we get to something like Vivaldi at the end, where we've got a lot of potentially offensive harmonics that are bombarding you with a large orchestra string section, it plays it like a champ. There's nothing wrong with that. My only issue with this set is probably the mid bass. And that's my opinion, and I'm out.